All right, everybody, welcome. Sunday Night Live. It's an open conversation. We're going to be talking about anything that you like, freedom of speech, drama, politics, you name it. We're going to be talking about it. I have a few video clips I'm going to be showing. As you all know, I'm a Trump supporter, 2024. Americans are first. I say close the borders. If you're going to come into this country, you come in this country the proper way. You go get your paperwork. All right, so I'm going to start off this video here. On the bottom of the screen, it says share your thoughts on this subject. Now, again, it is freedom of speech. Be able to type whatever you want in here in the chats. If you'd like to come up on the panel, I'm going to be opening the panel after I played a couple video clips. It's probably going to be roughly around 15 to 20 minutes through video clips. Then we will open up the panel, have people come up into the chat, into the live broadcast panel. So why don't we start off with this one here and go from here. And keep the chat active. If you have any comments or anything that you'd like to add to this, feel free to.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge.
I think your microphone is not on.
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes or no, is there a crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question.
So you're refusing to answer? Senator,
there is a very significant challenge. And
will you answer if there's a crisis?
Therefore, we are...
Marcus, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer, which is you're and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answer, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside.
So you refuse to answer. Let me ask you the next question. Has the crisis at our southern border made Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we are dedicated to the safety.
Has the crisis made Americans less safe? I don't want a discourse. It's a yes or no question.
Senator, we have a challenge of...
You refuse to answer the question.
Not...
Mr. Secretary, let me show you how someone doing his job answers a question in a straightforward manner. Chief Ortiz, is the crisis that is currently ongoing at the southern border making the border less safe for Americans and aliens alike? Answer, yes. One word, one syllable, 3 letters. That's how someone answers a question and does their job. You're being a politician, misleading the American people. Let me give you a chance again. Will you show the same integrity Chief Ortiz shows? Is the crisis at the southern border making Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we have 260,000.
You refuse to answer the question. Let's move on.
And security of the
next question, Mr. Mayorkas. Has the crisis made aliens less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we are seeking...
So you won't answer that question either. It's a yes or no. Has it made aliens less safe?
Senator, smugglers are exploiting...
Has the crisis made aliens, less safe? Are you willing to answer it?
Senator, the smuggling organizations...
Okay, you're filibustering again. Let me ask you this question. How many migrants have died under President Biden?
Senator, your phrasing of the question is actually quite misleading.
How many migrants died in 2022?
It's not misleading.
At our,
you still want to answer the
southern border?
Yes.
Precisely why
we're
seeking to exclude
so do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many died. 853.
That is
853. And by the way, here are the numbers that have died every year. You go back to 1998, you see it's consistently between 300 and 400, 300, 400, 300, 400. Suddenly, 2021, what happens? You get in office, and that red line are dead bodies. I've been on the Rio Grande, and I've seen dead bodies floating there who've drowned because of your refusal to do your job. You don't even know how many have died. What do you say to the Texas farmers and ranchers who find pregnant ladies dead on their property, who find toddlers dead on their property? What do you say to them?
I say that is why precisely.
for the people.
We are
He's a
taking it to the
politician.
smuggling organization.
But you are not. That is simply not true.
Number two, it is
Let,
why
let-
we
let-
are
let-
dedicated.
let me read from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago ran an article entitled, "It's like a graveyard. Record numbers of migrants are dying at the border." The story begins with this chilling line, quote, "Eagle Pass, Texas. Local officials keep a refrigerated truck to hold the bodies of migrants who drown in the currents of the Rio Grande while trying to cross the border into the U.S." Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Share your thoughts,
Let
everyone.
me ask you a different question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under the Biden administration?
Probably every single one of
Senator,
them.
this is precisely why we instituted.
I don't want a lecture. It's a question. How many children have been
going-
sexually assaulted by human traffickers under your administration?
Senator, this is
can't
this
even
is
answer the
exactly
question.
why on January 5th we announced
Again,
the parole
do you know how
program.
many? Do you know how many children have been sexually assaulted?
This is why we.
Okay, you're going to
instituted-
refuse to answer that question as well. Let's move on. It's obvious you've been instructed to stonewall, so
That's
I'm not going to let you. You don't get to stonewall and filibuster. Now, one of my Democratic colleagues before said the Democrat talking point, quote, "This problem didn't start under Biden." I get if you're a partisan spinner, you got to figure out something to say about the absolute catastrophe that is. 2020 was the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. Is that true or false?
It is certainly the lowest level of immigration in many, many years. And what was it
Okay, fine.
in 2020? What was it, Senator, in 2020 that impacted the entire world, including the United States?
Okay, so your
What
testimony
was-
is the reason we had the lowest rate was COVID. It had nothing to do with building the wall, nothing to do with any catch and release, nothing to do with remain in Mexico. With all respect, Mr. Secretary, that answer is laughable. And in
This is
fact, if you
something
look
that the news coverage,
at
fake
illegal
news-
immigration, let's look at CBP encounters. You can see 500,000, it drops to the lowest level, and boom, what happens? You show up. And that red line is you. That red line is Joe Biden. And you're claiming nothing happened. Oh, gosh, this was here before us. No, you made the decision to allow this to happen. Let me ask you, we now have over 5.5 million people who've entered this country illegally under Joe Biden. How many murderers have you released into America?
Senator, I'm not aware of any murderer whom we've.
So you don't
released Senator, let me say something.
Do you know?
If you take a look at.
No, you don't get to give a speech. Do you know how many murderers you've released?
I'm just trying to answer your question.
How many rapists
Senator.
have you released?
Senator, I'm trying
Do you
to answer
know?
your question.
You can answer, I know or I don't know.
Senator, any individual who poses a public safety threat.
How many child
is
molesters have you
detained
released?
and removed into the United States, from the United States.
Oh, so your testimony under oath, subject to perjury, is that you have not released any murderers, rapists, or child molesters among the 5.5 million. Is that your testimony?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the opportunity?
No,
to
you may
ask-
not. You may answer my question.
You're not.
Is
allowing-
that your testimony? Yes or no?
Senator, you're not allowing me to answer your question.
I am allowing you to answer. I'm not allowing you to filibuster.
If you take a look at
Exactly. Yes
the
or
pace
no
of
is the
immigration
question.
in 2018 to 2019,
You're refusing to
see
answer. Let's
dramatic-
move on. Let's
you will
move on
see-
to gotaways. Gotaways are the people that get away that you know about. Now, what happened
is-
under your administration? Gotaways consistently down at this low line. Boom, you get in. And they go from below 180,000 to 600,000. Now, I'll tell you this
30,000.
about a gotaway. You
The
don't
country
know
don't know nothing
among
about
those 600,000 a year, you have no idea how many are murderers, correct?
that is precisely
Don't even know
why.
where
the
they
number
are.
of gotaways-
Do you know how many of those are murderers?
That is precisely.
So you refuse
why-
to answer the question. You know how many are rapists? Do you know how many are rapists? This is a question. You're a lawyer. You know how to answer questions. Of the 600,000, do you know how many of them were rapists?
Senator, this is why we
So again,
are.
the answer is no. Let me ask you this. Do you know how many of them are terrorists? And I don't want to, Senator, here's my lecture on this. Do you know how many of the 600,000 gotaways were terrorists? Yes or no?
Senator, we are focused on the.
You
safety
refuse
and
to answer
security.
that as well. What's the result of massive gotaways? Well, one of the results is drug overdoses. And we now have last year over 100,000 overdoses.
over 100,000.
Who died. the majority from Chinese fentanyl streaming across the border. Now, you told Senator Cornyn you care, but look what has happened under your policy. When you open up the border to the worst illegal immigration in our nation's history, people die. You claim you care. Mr. Secretary, that is a lie. You know, some months ago, Karine Jean-Pierre stood up at a White House briefing and said, people are not just walking across the border. Was she telling the truth?
Senator, you are
Was she telling the
so
truth?
profoundly disrespecting
Was she telling
my
the truth?
22 years
Okay,
of government service.
you get to answer questions. You don't
Senator,
get to give speeches.
Senator, I served as a federal prosecutor.
All right,
for
you're
12
refusing
years.
to answer. If you look at, she was lying, and she was not lying on her own. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. Now, the photograph people walking. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. This is a photograph from just one day along the Rio Grande of hundreds of thousands of people walking across the border. You have allowed this to happen. The photograph that was before, what are these wristbands?
I don't know what they are.
You
Senator.
don't know what they are.
You don't know what
Mr.
they are?
Secretary, you have just testified to the American people you're incompetent at your job, because I've been to the southern border, and if you go to the southern border, along the southern border, you see thousands of these wristbands because the illegal immigrants wear them. The drug cartels, every color corresponds to how many thousands of dollars they owe the cartels. You have turned these cartels into multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations, and these are modern-day leg irons because these are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing. Mr. Secretary, how many children have been sold into sex slavery under your administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels.
How many children have been sold into sex slavery? Do you know how many children have been sold into sex slavery?
To an unprecedented degree.
Mr. Secretary, I want to say to you right now,
It is
your
precisely-
behavior is disgraceful, and the deaths, the children assaulted, the children raped, they are at your feet. And if you had integrity, you would resign. And I will tell you, the men and women of the Border Patrol, they've never had a political leader undermine them. They despise you, Mr. Secretary, because you're willing to let children be raped to follow political orders. This is a crisis. It's a disgrace. And you won't even admit this human tragedy is a crisis.
Now, that guy, he's fucking awesome. He gets right down to the point. All right. So now we have this one here. All right. Invite. Oh, no, wrong button there. All right. Don't forget, I'm going to be opening the live panel where people could come up. The link's going to be up top. Glad to say I'm very close to, I think it's 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel. So there, I touch a lot of subjects on my channel. That's 1,000 videos. That's a lot of freaking videos. So if something interests you here, feel free to go check out other live videos or anything else. Just scroll down to all my videos. Don't forget to hit that like, hit the subscribe, and let's share a couple more. Let's see. So this one here is just now. Take the border back. Very interesting.
Of Republican votes, I think that we will try again in the very near future. I thought we were going to do it last week, but I think we're close to doing it. And this time, I've passed it to trial.
Okay. Okay. All right. We are.
Well, look, I mean, the Supreme Court, it is. And they made a ruling. And, I sent Texas a letter outlining the access of Border Patrol confirm this at their job. They just do. Over and over again, they're making it harder. He's making it harder. for Border Patrol to do their jobs. They need access. They need access. And right now, they don't have that. And it's under the Constitution of the United States that federal law is the supreme law of the land, and any conflicting state is preempted. That's the law.
So you think they're failing to comply with the court's orders?
I mean, it's the law. It is literally the law. I mean, it is the law. And what we want is Border Patrol to be able to do their jobs. And right now, Governor Abbott is getting in the way. And you see it, DHS sent a letter on this. I would refer you to what they wrote.
Is DHS still trying to work with the Texas National Guard?
Look, DHS wants the Border Patrol agents to have access. They want them to be able to do their job so that they can follow the law. When Border Patrol is trying to have access to that area, they actually are trying to enforce the law. That's what they're trying to do. And Governor Abbott is getting in the way of that. And so they're trying to do their job, enforce the law, make sure that they are able to do what they are meant to be doing as Border Patrol
So
agents.
they're communicating with the Texas National Guard.
I mean, I'm not tracking every communication that they're having. What I'm saying more broadly, which is true, which is Border Patrol needs to be able to do their job, and they're getting in the way of that.
And just a quick one on the border talks. We understand, we and others have reported that the White House has said that they would accept limiting parole at the border as a condition in the Senate border talks. Can you confirm?
I cannot confirm that from here. I'm going to let the negotiators have their process, go through their process. We think it's happened in good faith. We think there's been progress, and we want to see a bipartisan agreement here.
All right, so I got one more video to be able to share. This one is really interesting. This one here is going to be starting Monday, actually. And it's a truckers convoy. It's just not going to be a truckers convoy. It's going to be a convoy across the whole entire southern coast of United States, across the whole entire border. This is supposed to last all week long. And you could be able to check this out. Truckers convoy, take over our borders. So you could check this one out. Let's see. And then after this, one more video. I do have a video audio clip that I've been saving for almost 3 hours on my phone. Been waiting to play this video clip. So this one here is the truckers convoy. I gotta click on this one here, and I believe it's this one here. It's a little bit slow. Every time I do this freedom of speech stuff, the internet kind of screws up. So I think, and don't forget to hit that like. And I do appreciate everybody being a subscriber. To be able to chat in the chat box, you do have to be a subscriber for 20 minutes, if not more. I'm going to play this one from the beginning to the preload everything. But it is really interesting. Share your thoughts, and also realize this is freedom of speech.
To get some help from
So you can say whatever you want to say.
Freedom Convoy. That's right. We're going to see the latest on the ongoing effort by Texas patriots to secure our southern border.
Do you
And
think
what
Civil
keeps
War
moving
is actually
forward
going to be
in
starting?
2024. Greetings, everyone. It's me, Dr. Steve, your patriot professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. The fallout from the Supreme Court's ridiculous decision, or should I say the defiance in the face of that feckless decision, continues today, as were reported yesterday, in a 5-4 ruling with the usual defections of Roberts and Barrett to the dark side, the lunatic liberal side. The court ruled that the Biden administration did, in fact, have the right to remove razor wire that served as a barrier to the slew of illegal
Marvin, I'll
migrants
be opening the
crossing
channel very
the southern
shortly.
border. It was a
I got
rather
one more video
stunning
clip to
ruling,
show,
precisely
audio
because
clip,
the decision,
and I'll have
in
people
effect,
come up on the
is
panel.
preventing Texas from enforcing the law, all the while enabling the Biden administration to break the law. However, almost immediately after the ruling was handed down, Texas officials basically told the Supreme Court to shove it. Video from Eagle Pass shows the Texas National Guard are indeed defying the Supreme Court's ruling by installing more razor wire and barriers at Shelby Park. And even Fox News is reporting that Texas forces are refusing to comply with the decision. Take a look.
Now, we do want to talk about the Supreme Court decision that came down just a few days
Supreme
ago,
Court's not going to
giving
be able
legal
to do
authority
anything.
to Border Patrol to cut the wire here in Shelby Park.
They could
Texas
be able to
National
take the border
Guard
if they need
still
to.
has control of Shelby Park, and Border Patrol is not allowed into the park to cut that out. Texas is defending the border. Take a listen.
Border Control
We
has
still
no
are gonna
right to
restrict the
cut that
access here
wire.
at Shelby Park. We're still going to add additional infrastructure along the river. That's what National Guard is doing right now. Currently, they're adding additional barriers to that concertina wire, making those areas more reinforced so that we can prevent and discourage any illegal border crossings.
And you're looking at the Rio Grande, where the water authority is actually raising the level. Controls of the Amistad Dam up the river, releasing more water due to heavy recent rain. Just a reminder for those migrants crossing, they're still making that trek over a dangerous current in that river. The question remains, if Border Patrol needs to come in, cut the wire, will Texas National Guard?
So as you can see, this is the real deal here. Texas officials are not kidding around anymore, and they don't appear to have the time to entertain the silly nonsense coming from our judicial high towers. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is hitting back against the court's ruling, promising that Texas forces will continue in their ongoing efforts to stem the tide of illegal border crossing that the Biden administration refuses to enforce. In fact, Abbott tweeted out that the Texas National Guard was indeed holding the line in Eagles Pass despite the Supreme Court's ruling, and Elon Musk retweeted Abbott's announcement with the simple affirmation, good. Good. And I think Musk speaks for all of us. Most certainly the vast majority of the nation that has had it with the bumbling Biden administration's deliberate abdication of their law enforcement responsibilities at the southern border. And now that support for Texas's law enforcement is about to get wider. Wait until you see what's headed for the Texas border. This is going to absolutely make your day. But first, as many of you know, the Grinches at Google have completely demonetized this channel. So make sure to click on that link below and support our awesome sponsor. And that's the amazing Old Country soap, made on a farm in South Dakota using traditional techniques. They use only locally sourced special ingredients without the harsh chemicals that can dry out your hair and skin. Bentonite clay that works wonders. It helps to soothe and relieve dry and sensitive skin. It's known for its healing properties that help with psoriasis.
We're not going to advertise for something I'm not going to get paid for. So anyways, I got this one other video. It's actually an audio clip. This audio clip is excuse me. This is the only way to secure the border with a lawsuit. Extermination GOP Senate. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it right, but let's play the video. The audio.
Joining us now, Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday. All right, you heard the explanation there from your colleague, Senator Langford, who, by all accounts, is a well-respected person on Capitol Hill and within the Senate. He talks about just the last few months, the terror watch people that have come through, the special interest aliens. And it comes on the back of this letter from a number of former FBI executives warning congressional leaders, saying this: it would be difficult to overstate the danger represented by the presence inside our border of what is comparatively.
Oh, man.
Dramatic showdown over security.
Oh, I think I just messed up. I hit the button. Let's see if I could be able to find this one again. I hate that when I do that. All right, looks like I lost it. I hit the button on accident. So, anyways, what we're gonna do is, you guys could check out some more videos on this. I'm gonna open up the panel if anybody would like to come up in the panel, and to hit that link that's above there. It's pasted. If you scroll to the top of the page, so open conversation, freedom of speech on a Sunday night live. We could talk about just about anything. There's a few people in here laughing. Let's see. How about the Ford? The Ford tractor is still sitting at my brother's house. Marvin, good evening. So I got a couple more videos, things I could be able to play that would be interesting, which fake news does not show. It's just the fact that if anybody would like to come up on a panel, feel free. Hit that link, and then we'll get to that part. Let's see. All right, this one here is migrants crisis, Texas versus Biden. It's I can't even pronounce it. And oh my God, battle begins between states versus federal government. So we're gonna play this one here because this is the one that I was watching earlier. 25 states that against Biden's plans, and they're willing to send their National Guards down to Texas or the remaining southern borders to protect the United States. So we'll watch this one here. It's going to take a couple seconds for load. So YouTube doesn't like when I do this stuff.
State can block federal.
Give it a minute to, like I said, it takes a little while for it to load up.
Border agents into the state to cut razor wire it's been installing over the past few weeks.
For us, for Oklahomans, I think for most Americans, this is just common sense. In Texas, there's 28 ports of entry, and it's already a federal law that it's illegal to enter anywhere but those points of entry. I mean, the last time I flew to Mexico, I had to land at an airport and show them my passport. And so the fact that the federal government, Biden, is cutting razor wire, it just makes no sense at all. And so, yes, we have the right to defend our country against invasion. And what else would you call it if you got 6 million people coming through illegally?
We have some updates on the crisis at the southern border. An immigration deal drafted by Senator Chuck Schumer and James Lankford seems dead on arrival in the House as congressional Republicans balked at what they saw as another mass amnesty bill.
The Supreme Court has issued an emergency injunction allowing Border Patrol agents to cut wire Texas had installed along the border near a popular crossing at Eagle Pass. Litigation continues over other Texas immigration policies, including floating barriers in the Rio Grande.
They wrote, "We stand in solidarity with our fellow governor, Greg Abbott, and the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences, to secure the border. We do it in part because the Biden administration is refusing to enforce immigration laws already on the books and is illegally allowing mass parole across America of migrants who entered our country illegally."
But it wasn't just Republicans who backed Abbott's decision to buck the feds. Presidential hopeful RFK Jr. wrote, "Texas is right. Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands. As president, I will end this humanitarian crisis once and for all. I will secure the border and destroy the business model of the drug cartels." So the Supreme Court had a 5-4 decision Monday that said Border Patrol agents are entitled to cut the razor wire. We know that last week, 3 migrants, a woman and her 2 children, were stuck on the razor wire. They drowned. The claim was that, Border Patrol was going to cut the wire so that they would not be killed and drown. And the National Texas Guard, or the Texas National Guard, prevented that the Border Patrol from saving, these 3 migrants. And so it seems to me that the decision was made by the Supreme Court because handling migrants crossing the border is not something that should be met with, the death penalty. There should not be, a preventative measure from migrants entering the United States that could kill them. It seems reasonable to me, Amber, I'm sure you believe that there's something else going on here. Would you
Yes.
clue me in?
You would be correct. Okay. So this case was basically just a stay of the ability of Border Patrol agents to cut the concertina wire pending further legal action. So basically there's a case that's coming before the Fifth Circuit on February 7th that will actually hear the merits of the case as to whether or not Border Patrol trumps the state authority to control its own border. And Texas is arguing that under the Constitution, we have the right to prevent an invasion of our country. Greg Abbott has invoked
We have
the
the right.
invasion clause, the emergency clause that gives him the authority to do this. So SCOTUS is not saying that Texas is wrong to put the wire up or that they can't put the wire up, but they're simply saying pending this February 7th court case, we're going to allow the federal agents to come in and cut it if they so choose. Now, Texas, in response to that, is saying you can come in and cut the wire, but we're basically not going to allow you access. So they're trying to find this loophole where they can skirt the Supreme Court's stay of the Fed's ability to cut the concertina wire pending this court case. Now, I would agree on technical terms that it shouldn't be a death sentence to cross the border illegally, but you could argue basically that any kind of physical barrier to people crossing the border illegally could potentially result in death. If you were to build a 10-foot wall and someone decides to try to climb that wall and they fall off and they hit their head and they die, I wouldn't say that the blame for that is on the person who constructed the wall, but on the person who decided that they should try to scale the wall. You take an inherent risk when you cross into another country illegally. And the whole reason of putting this razor wire on the Rio Grande is to disincentivize people from trying to cross the river, which is inherently a dangerous thing. There have been numerous drownings in the Rio Grande by illegal migrants before there was ever any razor wire in there, not to mention the fact that these individuals who drowned recently were on the Mexican side of the river. So it's arguable whether the United States Border Patrol would have even have jurisdiction to go in there anyway. The Texas National Guard itself has saved dozens of people from either drowning or undergoing other medical emergencies upon trying to cross the border. But the whole point is to try to filter people who do want to come into the United States into the proper ports of entry, where they can then either make a claim to asylum or make some other legal claim as to why they should be allowed to enter the United States. And then they can go through the proper court process as to opposed to just pouring through these unmanned stretches of the border that don't have any security.
Yeah, I think there's just a big difference between a fence and a razor wire barrier that, you know, stabs people, gets attached to your clothes. That's a big reason why people drown trying to cross over the razor wire. Also, you know, if this event did happen, this incident happened on the Mexican side of the border, there's a huge problem. Why is the razor wire on the Mexican side of the border? That's going to put the United States in a really tough position with their neighbor Mexico. Why are you putting razor wire in the Rio Grande River on our side? I think it's a very dangerous obstacle. It's not the same thing as falling off of a fence, something that is intentionally meant to cut anyone who comes into contact with it, or have it get caught on your clothes while you're swimming in a river trying to cross over. So I think it makes sense to have the Border Patrol be able to, you know, cut this down, because this is going to increase tensions between the United States and Mexico. I think putting people's lives at risk unnecessarily just doesn't make sense. Is immigration into the United States the same thing as an invasion? What constitutes an invasion? I don't think people who are willing to risk their lives, that's why they're going through these dangerous conditions, because of what they are fleeing, is so much worse than the razor wire, risking their life crossing the desert or the Rio Grande, which is extremely dangerous. People drown quite often. So really, these are people that are making a big risk because they've deemed their life in Mexico worth taking that risk. And a lot of the dangers in Mexico are thanks to U.S. intervention across Latin and Central America. And so when you have Representative Mike Collins, you know, quoting the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, saying, the U.S. shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government and shall protect them against invasion. And so it's not the states' rights to protect themselves against invasion. They could say, you know, we don't agree with what the federal government is doing, but at the end of the day, that's a U.S. border, not just the Texas border. maybe they'll end up succeeding, and maybe it will be,
Well,
Texas and Mexico.
I mean, the argument would be then that the federal government has failed in its duty to protect the states. And so the states have had to then protect themselves because the federal government fundamentally right now is refusing to enforce immigration policy as it sits on the books. And what Texas is doing is simply enforcing the policy that the federal government has signed on to. So there's not an inconsistency between federal law and what Texas is doing to try to secure its border. I would argue that this absolutely would qualify as an invasion. When we just look at the sheer numbers of people who are coming across the border, we've seen, I believe, somewhere between 6 and 8 million just since the beginning of the Biden administration. That's more than the population of many U.S. states. We've seen record numbers on a monthly basis of over 300,000 illegal migrants, illegal encounters. That's actually the ones that we don't catch coming across the border on a monthly basis. The highest number under the Trump administration when he signed the emergency authorization was 100,000, just over 100,000. We're now seeing triple that. And yet the Biden administration still refuses to even call this a crisis, refuses to use the available authority that they do have outside of congressional intervention, outside of additional funding to secure the border. And I would also argue that this would actually probably help tensions with Mexico, because Mexico doesn't want people from Guatemala and Honduras coming up through their country either to then get across the U.S. border, drown on their side of the Rio Grande River, potentially die on the journey in their country. It's a humanitarian requirement, I think, to not incentivize people with our policies to make that dangerous trek, where a vast majority of them are paying tens of thousands of dollars to coyotes who don't care about their life. It's essentially human trafficking. We've seen statistics suggesting that as many as 70% of women who come on the journey to the United States are sexually assaulted on their way, to the
Children
point that
as
mothers
well.
are giving their 10-year-old daughters birth control so that they don't get pregnant when they're raped by the coyotes or the males who are on them with them on these journeys. And so to me, not securing the border, not changing policy to prevent people from wanting to come here because they think that they're going to get catch and release. The vast majority of these people do not qualify for asylum, so they can say they maybe want more economic opportunity. But about 90% of the people who claim that they get asylum because of either political implications or gangs or violence or whatever else they're claiming don't qualify. The asylum rules are very specific in our country, and 90% of them aren't going to get that because they simply want to come here for a job, which is understandable. It's fine for people to want that, but that doesn't mean that we have to abandon all standards at the border and allow more than the population of most U.S. states to come across on a biannual basis just because we feel bad. What about the care for our own citizens? Shouldn't their concerns come first, considering they're the ones paying taxpayer money to our government to help take care of them? And we're failing on pretty much every measure for our citizens here in the United States.
I would credit that to, the corporate capture of the United States economy. Survive. They don't have, but what's going on at the border, it seems as though the situation you have of people crossing over, they want to migrate to the United States. They're not coming here to take over the country. They're for Russia invading Ukraine. This is not an invasion. These are people coming to the United States to live, to work, to start a life. What they need is processing centers. So to have the National Guard of Texas and many residents of Texas say it seems that we're at war with the federal government because the federal government, the Supreme Court, which is majority conservative, ruled that they were allowed, the Border Patrol agents, to cut down razor wire that was killing migrants trying to cross. So as soon as the federal government said you can't kill Mexican immigrants coming to the United States or immigrants from Latin and Central America from coming to the United States, then they're at war. It's not, hey, you won't give us the processing money we need. There are a lot of migrants coming to the United States. It seems very clear from this line of thinking that they really do just want to kill migrants as they cross the border.
I just disagree entirely with the framing that Texas is killing migrants by securing the border when you don't seem to want any accountability for people who are crossing illegally when they know that there's barriers there. They're putting their own life at risk by choosing to make that decision. And I think it's up to us to disincentivize that. So that in the port we would still have people caught and released into the United States. You're still incentivizing the illegal behavior in the United States despite no legal basis to be here in the first place.
I don't think this mother and two kids were criminals or felons or members of a drug cartel. I think the assumption that all of the migrants trying to cross are not qualifying for asylum is very dangerous.
It's not an assumption, though. It's data. You can look at the DHS data of the percent of cases who go through asylum courts actually qualify for asylum. Something like 10%.
I don't think that means we have to put razor wire at the border that causes migrants to drown. There's a legal process for migration. People can come into the United States and stay for a period of time before they're considered citizens or before they have to get paperwork to be in the United States. And so there are migration processes that are clearly not willingly being followed by the state of Texas.
They're not being followed by the people who are crossing.
That's incorrect. That's very incorrect, because the bridge is still open where they could be able to cross to get the proper paperwork to come into the United States. That was false information. All right. New York. You guys want to know what's happening in New York? Here we go. What's happening around this country with the migrants?
Only information he got from the city was this: you have to leave the Row Hotel today.
Freezing out here. Our mayor is a slumlord. So because of the cold weather, there's been a lot of attention on migrant families out here, and this new policy that evicts migrant families with children after 60 days has been in place for almost 2 weeks. Now behind me, you can see the Roosevelt Hotel. This has been serving as a welcome center for newly arriving migrants.
How about our veterans? How come they're not put up in these hotels?
With eviction notices.
Meanwhile, some migrant families have started being evicted from the Row Hotel in Midtown.
Forced out of their families who were told their time is up. It's inconvenient, he said, referring to the eviction notice they received back in October while expecting a baby. The pregnancy in its final weeks and the stress I feel, she said, explaining she's 8 months pregnant and wishes officials made an exception.
Our mayor is a slumlord. City council members and immigration advocates blasting Mayor Eric Adams and his administration for implementing a policy that evicts migrant families with children after 60 days. If these families cannot find their own housing within that time, they have to return to the Roosevelt Hotel and reapply for shelter. While a similar policy for single adult migrants has been in place for several months, this new recent policy change that now impacts pushing back against the.
I urge the mayor to abandon this counterproductive and cruel tactic and instead pursue more sound management.
Last week, the administration amended this policy so that pregnant migrants in their third trimester and women with newborn babies will not receive eviction notices until their babies turn 6 months old. In response to the rally, the Adams administration says they've had to make these drastic policy decisions because they're out of room and resources to care for such a large number of.
That's our tax dollars right there.
For a federal solution.
See, that's the freaking Roosevelt Hotel in New York City.
Received care since the spring of 2022.
But yet we have veterans and homeless people sitting around in the streets
by the city.
that
Deputy
our
Speaker
government don't
Diana
wanna put
Ayala
up.
disagreed with the mayor that the city is out of room.
I've been in meetings where I have been told directly that one of the motives for this policy is really to make people uncomfortable enough. So I don't believe that the mayor is being honest.
Advocates also say that moving kids around to different shelters disrupts their education, with some kids being forced to bounce around to different schools.
They have not been getting all the help this administration claims they've been giving them. These human beings are being moved from shelter to shelter. Shelter staff have lost their mail and say that since they moved, they had to return their mail to sender. These are life-changing documents.
Now, according to a recent Siena College poll that came out this Workers say that the recent migrant influx is a serious problem. Reporting live, I'm Morgan Mackay. Steve and Teresa, back to you.
All right, Morgan, thank you.
So that's what's going on in New York. New York, what they're basically doing is evicting all the migrants that's been there for 60 days. And what they have to do is refile. I think that is 100% legit. But yet, in the meantime, they're staying at the fucking Roosevelt Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. But yet, we have homeless, veteran homeless people are getting kicked out of existing shelters to make room. They have children getting evicted from their schools so they could put these people in these schools for housing. I got a few more things here. Immigration. I got one more, and we'll see if anybody wants to come up on the panel. If no one wants to come on the panel, let's see. All right, we'll do this one here. We'll wait for this one to load up a little bit, and we'll put it. Like I said, it's freedom of speech, open the conversation. Give it a minute or two, it'll load up. Thank you for everybody that's in there. If you're watching us up on TikTok, I am live on my YouTube channel, Lucky7 MudMowers.
It is a dangerous situation. It is a war zone at our southern border. I'm so proud of what Texas has done, proud to stand with them. I've deployed my national guard
Turn this
ready.
up a little bit.
We'll do what we, it is the inhumanity of the policies that are happening right now is pretty striking, Dana. I mean, you see women suffering, the drug trafficking, the human trafficking that is happening because of these open border policies. It's inhumane and it needs to stop. You have the Texas Department of Public Safety that is pulling people out of the river, giving them CPR, bringing them back to life because the cartels are forcing them across that river. I talked to one mother who had just gotten into the United States and had been taken into custody by National Guard and also by Border Patrol. But she had been in Nicaragua, had been told that America is open, please come. She brought her daughter, her 6-year-old daughter, and was facilitated through by cartels, and said where she was so mistreated was in Mexico, that she sat in Mexico for 3 months and was put through horrific work conditions and terrible conditions for her and her daughter for 3 months before they then brought her across the river and forced her across into a dangerous situation. So the people that I see saving lives down there is the Texas National Guard, the Texas Border Patrol. I'll tell you, the Border Patrol that works for this federal government doesn't approve of Joe Biden's policies. The people in this country don't. Nobody thinks that what's happening at the border is the right thing to do. And they know that the president has the legal authority now to take action. He could stop this today. He doesn't need to wait for a bill to pass Congress. He doesn't need to wait for this bad bill to be codified, which it shouldn't be. President Biden could take action today. Well, that's why I went to the border on Friday. I went there to see with my own eyes what was going on, and recognizing that I am, as governor of South Dakota, I'm commander in chief of my National Guard. That's a heavy responsibility that sits on our shoulders. We have the same responsibility for those families and those soldiers that the president should feel for our military and how he engages them. So we don't know where this will escalate. We don't know what the president will do. We don't know how he'll try to manipulate our soldiers, and if he will even defend our country from this invasion that is happening. So that's why I went there. I'm all in to protect our state sovereignty. I deal every day, Dana, in South Dakota with the effects of this open border. We have those Mexican cartels that have a presence on my 9 tribal reservations, where those communities are suffering from the drug trafficking and the human trafficking that's going through my tribal reservations, where I don't have any jurisdiction. I can't go there and help bring peace to their community. I can't help protect them from these Mexican cartels. And they are literally in South Dakota facilitating unrest. I am concerned about violence because people in South Dakota live with violence every single day. They're incredible crimes, and my tribes have asked, well, first of all,
That's sad.
what I do as
You hear the
governor
questions
is I start looking
you
at
can hear the
the
answers.
long range effects of every single decision and what I'm prepared to do. So that's why I went to the border on Friday, was to look at, there could be a violent situation, but there also could be areas where we need to take legal action as governors to protect our states. I'm willing to put all of that on the table to make sure that we're protecting the freedoms that we've always had ever since this country was founded. That's my responsibility and why I get up every single day. Why doesn't President Biden take action today? I mean,
Good
today
question.
can be day one. He can immediately announce that he's reinstating the stay in Mexico policy. He can immediately announce that he's going to refocus on building a wall. He can do those today. I had listened to Nancy Pelosi talk earlier. She's been in Congress for decades and has talked about immigration for decades. And what has she accomplished? We have
Nothing.
a president that has all the tools that he needs to protect our country today, and he's refusing to do that. So to look at Congress and expect them to pass a bill when they failed for decades to do this, and then to say we have to accept this poison pill of a bill that it essentially codified.
It's time for the American citizens to take over America.
It's a terrible bill.
Get rid
And I
of the
think President
government.
Trump is exactly right. It should not pass, and push President Biden to take action, because he has all the federal laws that he needs today to keep us safe, to stop the drugs that are coming into this country and killing us. We have children dying every day from fentanyl poisoning. We have children every single day that are being trafficked, and President Biden can take action and stop.
All right. A lot of interesting things you could be able to find on YouTube news. All you have to do is go to youtube.com and hit that news button. You could go down there. Some is very, very interesting. And tell you what, it's not fake news. It's live. You could be able to see all these news broadcasters, all these small channels scrolling all the way down to the border. And they're filming and all this stuff. And we are under an invasion. We need to change something. We need to close the borders. So please, if you have any interest in any of this, my broadcast usually lasts an hour. It's been just about an hour now. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe. Feel free to watch me again on my next live. Usually go live on Friday nights. I didn't do that this Friday. I was busy, but that's why I decided to go today. I think I'm going to do one more live video sometime during the week before Friday. And that's going to be a replay of one of my other videos that I've done, and older videos, which I don't think not too many people seen it. And it's going back when I first started my YouTube channel. So anyways, watch for that one. Like I said, I got very close to 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel. So feel free to check it out. Lucky7 MudMowers, YouTube.com. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like, and hit the follow. Don't forget to hit that bell on the bottom. Once you hit the follow, the subscribe, there's a bell that comes up. Make sure you get all alerts on there. Till next time, everybody, I appreciate everybody coming up. I'm going to rename this video, What's Going On in America. So we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.